Welcome back, learners. So now we're just going to do a quick recap of what transpired throughout this lesson. So we looked at the main idea being the reflection of light, and then firstly we discussed the types of materials that they can either be one of three rather, that we can either have an opaque material, we can have a transparent material, or we can also have a translucent material. So they are different in the way in which they are able to transmit light or reflect light. Remember that the transparent materials, they transmit most of the light and only reflect a little bit of it. However, the translucent materials, they allow some of the light to pass through, or rather they transmit some of the light and the other light is reflected. Whereas the opaque materials, they do not allow any light to be transmitted. So rather, they do not allow any light to pass through. And then now, we also looked at the reflection of light. What happens when light is reflected? Now, light coming in with 7 different colors that are giving us the white light. We are seeing that if that light strikes a surface, some of those colors, they are going to be reflected. And those reflected colors are going to be coming to our eyes because we are the observers. And because of those reflected colors, we are able to tell the color of any particular object. Now, should an object appear to be red, that means all the other 6 colors were absorbed and only the red color was reflected. Now, we did talk about the black, that's now the absence of reflection, or rather the absence of color of light, because all of those colors coming from the white light are going to be absorbed by that black object. Now, if it's white, we are saying that because light comes in a form of a white light, if we are seeing a white light, or if you are seeing a white color, that means all of those colors, all of those 7 different colors were reflected off the surface. Now, on top of that, we further looked at words or used words to better explain everything that you talked about now. The reflection, we also used words like the normal line, the angle of incidence, and the angle of reflection. So the reflection now, that's the bouncing back of light from a surface. And then the normal line, that's an imaginary line that divides the angle between the incident ray and the reflected ray into 2 equal angles. Now, this line is perpendicular, meaning that it is at 90 degrees to the surface. Furthermore, the term such as angle of incidence, now that is now the angle between the ray of incident on a surface and the line perpendicular at 90 degrees angle to the surface. So that's now the angle between the normal and the angle of the incident ray. And the angle of reflection, that's now the angle between the reflected ray and the surface and with the normal, or which is the perpendicular line to the surface. Angle of reflection, angle between the normal and the reflected ray. Remember that those 2 angles, they are going to be equal. So, what I want you to take away, what I want you to always remember about this lesson is that, number 1, a ray diagram is a drawing that shows the path of light. And then number 2, the white light that we see is made up of 7 different colors of spectrum. Remember, think of the Roig beave. And then number 3, the reflected light that reaches our eyes and allows us to see the object. So the reflected light, it is the one that allows us to see everything that we are seeing around us because of the reflection or the bouncing back of that particular light from a surface. So most surfaces, they reflect light. When light strikes the reflective surface, it can change direction. Remember, coming from the source, when it strikes a reflective surface, it bounces off and goes into a different direction. And then lastly, the most important thing, or one of the most important things for you to remember is, reflections of rippled water are not clear, but rather blurred. So this is what I want you to always remember whenever you're thinking about this particular lesson on the reflection of light. However, I just have one quick question for you, and that question is, what is refraction? So I want you to answer this question for me, and I will see you next time. Bye.